Desperate times call for desperate measures. Sometimes when we're desperate and we want something to happen badly enough, we're willing to do some things that maybe we wouldn't do if we weren't desperate. A number of years ago, Edith and I went to Cat Lake to visit some of our friends. It's a fly-in community, uh, no roads, and at that time of the year, and so we went in on Bearskin Airlines and were there a couple of days, and then we were going to come out on a Thursday. The day we were going to come out, the weather was not too good, and Bearskin canceled their flight into the airport. They canceled it, so um, our flight didn't come. So I went back to the house where we were staying, and I thought, well, it's Thursday. I'll call them. They have like 3 flights a day. We'll get out later that day on another flight. So I phoned them, and they said, well, the first confirmed seat we can give you is on Tuesday. I was like, Tuesday? You can't do that to me. Like, this is Thursday. You can't just leave me here till Tuesday. And they're like, well, that's the first we can get a confirmed seat for you. And I say, but you have like 3 flights a day. Yeah, but they're all full. And they said, if it's convenient for you, you can go over to the airport and for each flight, and you can try to go standby, and maybe there'll be some empty seats, and you'll be able to get on one of those flights standby. And I said, no, it's not convenient. Like I'm a 20 or 30-minute walk away from the airport. I got to carry our stuff over there. And no, it's not convenient. And saying, I don't understand how you can do this to me. And well, that's all they could do. I got off the phone and Edith said, wow, you sound grumpy. And I said, I am. Like, I don't know how they can do that. When we had plans for the weekend, we had things we needed to do, things that were scheduled. I didn't feel like we could stay there till Tuesday, and I just didn't know what to do. And so I started talking to some of the people there, and said, how can we get back to Sulaka? Well, they said maybe call Slate Falls Airways. Maybe they could get you out to Sioux Lookout. Sometimes they come in if even when Airskin doesn't fly. So I called Slate Falls Airways, and the man there said, well, if I get enough people, if I get a plane load, I'll come in. They said, if I come in, are you going to go for sure? And I said, yes, I'll go for sure if you come in. And so he said, okay, call me back in about 2 hours. So about 2 hours later, I phoned him back, and he said, okay, I got two more people. Gave me a time, told me when to meet him at the dock. And so we went down there at that time and got to the dock, and there were two other people that were flying out, and they were there. And so the plane came in. It was a 206, a Cessna 206 on floats. And I've flown around the north on float planes a fair bit, and some in a 206, and so I'm kind of familiar with it. And so the other two people that were flying out, they came, they had some boxes of frozen meat and stuff, and they were saying to the pilot, can we take this stuff? And he said, well, we can try. And so he started loading the plane, and he threw those boxes of frozen meat back in the tail. And I told Edith, I just never saw anybody load a 206 like this before. I don't know. I, I'm not sure about this. And she said, well, do you think it's safe to go with him? I said, well, I don't think he wants to die. So if he's going to go, I really want to get the Suluk out. So we're going to go with him. So he got everything loaded, and the other two people were bigger than we were. So he did put one of them up front with him, and then put us in the middle seats, and one person in the back. And we went to take off. And Cat Lake is a big lake, lots of room. So he went to the end of the lake, and he started his takeoff and gave the thing full power. And we're going. We're just plowing through the water. And I'm looking out the window thinking, we're not going anywhere. Like this plane's not going to get out of the water. But eventually he started rocking it, and he got the front of the floats up, and we got up one step, and we started going a little faster, and we're going and going and going a long way. And finally, then he rocked the plane a little bit to one side and got the one float out of the water, and then it went back down on and kept going and going. He got it out again, got it up on one float. We're going on one float. Finally, he got the second float out of the water and just hung there a little bit, and boom, and then both floats came back down on the water. We went some more, went longer and longer and longer. Eventually, the one float, he got it out again, and then the other one, and then he got the nose down enough that we were able to stay out of the water and gradually took off. Well, the weather was bad. There wasn't much room between the tops of the trees and the clouds. And this was before the days of airplanes like that having a lot of navigation equipment and GPSs and all that. But he had a little handheld GPS that he had rubber banded to the yoke. And he had recorded his track that he came in on. And he told us, In Sulicot, it's perfectly clear, not a cloud in the sky. He said, we're going to get about halfway back, and the clouds are just like a curtain. We'll pop out of the clouds, and it'll be clear. So we started flying, and he would fly just above the treetops. And when we would get to a lake, he'd go down below the trees. We'd go across the lake. We get to the other side. He'd go up above the trees, and he'd just go that way. We kept going and going, and he was going around. He was following his GPS. He wasn't looking out the window much. He was looking more at his GPS on his yoke and just following that line that he had come in on. Uh, and sure enough, we got about halfway back to Sioux Lookout. It was perfectly clear. We went up to 5,000 feet. We came back to Sioux Lookout and landed, and we got home, and everything was fine. If I hadn't been desperate to get out of Cat Lake, if I hadn't had things scheduled and things I really needed to do, I might have just stayed there and waited for bearskin. But it all worked out. Desperate times can call for desperate measures.